Okay, so here we are back with the cowl kit for the assembly. Here's all the pieces. Got 2 ears, nose, tail, legs, arms, head, body, horns, the black thread, and then the eyes and the bell. So start, I suppose, with the head. So we are going to put the eyes in where we have our markers and then stuff it. So safety eyes are easy. They consist of 2 parts, the eye and the backing, a lot like an earring. The backs go on this way, not this way. So we are just going to put these in. So we can either, I guess, put these right above or right below. And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe above, like right here. So I'm going to put this in without taking the stitch marker out first so I can look at it. Where do we want it? No, we want it right below, I think. So I'm putting it in right below. And you just press it in. And before we put the backs on, they can just come right back out. And then again, right below. And then let's take our nose. That's not enough space, huh? No. Alright, so above it is. Okay, so I'm going to put this one right in here. Hey, knock it off. Okay. And right in here. Right above our marker. Wow, these eyes look big right now. Okay, yeah, that looks like that's going to be better. So I'm going to take these stitch markers out. Make sure these are pushed all the way in. Although putting the backs on will push them in more. Now it's hard to get a good look at this while it's not stuffed, but I think they look pretty in line with each other. So we're gonna put the backs in. I'm just gonna sort of hold this open with my thumbs and then push the end of it towards the opening, like so. And then place this on here like this and just push down. It'll click on those little ridges. And then the other one. What are you stuck on? You stuck on the side. There it is. Okay. And then just push down. Don't let that get caught under it. And I push them down so they kind of click twice. Okay, now we'll stuff the head. So I'm going to get some of this out and sort of decompress it a little. And start stuffing. So just like this, just gonna shove stuffing in there and arrange it around until it's stuffed to kind of your liking for firmness. So I'll be back after I'm done stuffing. Okay, so that's looking pretty good to me. I do like to stuff the neck area pretty well, and we might add more when we're sewing it together because we want it to have the support. So there's that. And then with the nose and the black yarn, we're going to do some detail work. So now this says with the yarn to do a running stitch on each end of round 1, but each end of round 1 would be like here and here, and this is definitely more central in the middle. So we're just gonna do it closer in, and that's gonna be that. So I'm gonna position this so that my join is on the bottom instead of the top. And we're just gonna thread this onto our needle. And it also wants us to make a running stitch at the bottom of round 1 for the mouth. And a running stitch is literally just come up and go back down. That's all. Up and back down. So I'm gonna, let's see, we got I think here and here looks pretty good. I'm just kind of counting toward the middle. And we're gonna try coming out through the yarn up here. And let's see, back down through this loop here, because if we go through this hole, it will kind of look a little shorter. Which is also why I caught a little bit of a thread from up above. I didn't just go through the hole because that would be kind of small. Like here, I'll just it gets so much smaller because it wraps around the hole there. Okay, so let's see, there's one, and then we'll just move over a little and do the other. So I'm thinking on this side, so I'm just catching a tiny bit of a thread, well, I'm trying to anyway, from up here, then coming down and catching a tiny bit of a thread from down here. That might be the wrong thread to catch. I might want to catch a little bit of this one. I think that would be the wrong one to catch. Okay. Let's see, they look pretty centered to me. And then down here below, we're gonna just keep with the same tail because we don't need much for this. And this mouth looks like it's a tiny bit wider than the nostrils. So I'm gonna come out through this little stitch just to the left of that one, come straight across and go in right to the right of that one. It actually just looks like a little smiley face. And I think that's probably pretty good. So now, this is totally unnecessary, but I'm gonna back this up a little bit. Oh wait, the other direction. Where does this tighten from? Because, you know, it's not wasting yarn, but it feels like wasting yarn. You don't have to do that. Anyway, now I'm going to tie these two together, taking care not to over tighten, because we don't want to make the last one, the last like mouth, get a little too tight because of it. So tighten that down. Take a look. Okay, that's not bad. So now I'm just gonna trim these And when you're weaving in with black, you have to be careful that it doesn't show through. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of go under. I don't want to weave it through the light colored fabric yarn. I'm just gonna kind of go under some of those stitches that I made to weave this in a little. Although once it's knotted, honestly, it probably doesn't need to be woven in at all. And you know, it's kind of probably useless, but we're gonna do it anyway. And then we'll check and see if we can see it from the front. And if we can see it from the front, we'll just tighten that knot pretty good and just cut these off. Yeah, you can kind of see it from the front. Okay. Alright, so we're just going to make sure that's good and tight and give it just a little bit. It shouldn't move inside anyway. Okay. Why have you gone crooked? You weren't crooked earlier. Alright. Looks pretty decent. So, moving on. Okay, so now we are to lightly stuff the nose and to sew it on centered under the eyes between rounds 9 and 13. So we count from the back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So right in here. Okay, so I took a little stuffing out. That's probably good. And then we want it basically right in between here, like this. This looks really funny without any ears or fringe or horns. So we are just we're gonna try to start this center. That's kind of the hard part. That looks like it'll be pretty all right. And then we're gonna come under here and just catch a stitch here to kind of, okay, yeah, that looks, I wish I could look at it. Let's try this. That looks off to the left. So let's move over a bit. Measure twice, cut once, so they say. Okay. Okay, that looks kind of centered as far as under the eyes. Although their eyes are definitely higher. But I did put them where they said. So we'll just keep sewing this one. You might, if you don't like how this looks, want to put your eyes up one more row, like above the stitch marker a little more. Okay, so for sewing this on, I'm just gonna grab the edge of the stitch and then the edge of the stitch down here in places where it's like, I'll do that all at once when it seems readily available, kind of like that, and just do this around. I think this is technically a whip stitch, and just coming in through this, the edge of the stitch top to bottom, and then in through my work in my head and and do that all the way around, but you're gonna want to check your shaping as you go. This looks a lot like a duck to me right now. And this does look kind of skinny, so maybe that's why my eyes look low, because it definitely looks kind of like a duck, like it's flatter. So I'm gonna try to sort of keep it flatter as I go around. So hold it like that with one hand, and then keep sewing this around like so. Like so, because I'm sewing. And I will finish this around just like this and be back. Okay, so that's sewed on. And some of the stitches I went into the same stitch in the body more than once, with different stitches around the nose. This is looking kind of funky, but I did this, and I think that that helps. So anyway, I'm gonna maybe not tie this end off yet in case I decide to move the nose, which, you know, I move things kind of a lot. Let's see, where are we at? Lightly stuffed horns. Position on each side of round 4 on head, sew in place. Okay, I like things that give me rounds to work off of. So this is in the center here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Because this is round 4. So if we go out to the side, either side here, and they look like they're kind of to the back. So maybe just a little further back, like back here. And we will get those sewed on. I think I am going to try using the back of the hook for this, because this is pretty small. Now we don't need much. So I'm just gonna stuff these kind of like this, both of them, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I sewed one ear on and didn't like it. So then I sewed the second ear on this one a different way, and I kind of like it. So I'm gonna do the first one the way I did this one. So it says to do it on either side of round 4, but these are wider than a round. So I came around this inner circle to like this back part, and I'm just gonna count out. So this is the end of row 1, 2, 3. This is 4, but I'm gonna go down to like the top of 6, and I'm gonna put my needle in down there to start, so that will end up at 4 on the top. So, because now if this sits right here, then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll be ending on 4. So this looks an awful lot like Maleficent to me, but we're just gonna go with it. So now I'm gonna just catch a loop from up here, and then with this, so that the curve is facing upward and in, I'm just gonna go around like I did with the muzzle basically, and just catch a piece of thread from the body and the outside loop of this stitch here all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll come through row 4 here for the top, get that out of the way. I had the ear up here because I was messing with how it might look with the ear on, because they don't look that far back. But then if you think you need space for the ear, of course, maybe I'll change my mind and decide that they are too far back and that I need to move them forward. So just like this around. Nope, don't want to do that. Just want to do that. Okay. One more right here. And then we'll check. Okay. So I think that looks okay. Now these look pretty curved in the picture. A little more, I mean, I'm encouraging it a bit now, but maybe I'll run this yarn through and tighten it and see if we like that better when I go to do those ends in. Okay, so next should probably be the ears. Yeah. Okay, so fold ears in half, having wrong side together. So here's an ear, and this is wrong side. This is right side. You have the tops of these single crochet showing on right side. And it's kind of curved toward right side. So wrong sides folded together like so. And then sew in place below each horn, having open portion of ear facing front. So basically, like this. Okay. This eye, they're into the same row, but this eye is just a little bit higher. I mean, that happens when you work on a spot. They're not exactly the same height, but still. So we are going to insert our yarn right there so we don't lose that spot. Then thread this. Bring this through, and then I'm going to hold this here, and I'm going to go in through both sides to sew that fold in. Like that. And then I'll come back in through the head. Let's see, right back here. And then I'm gonna do a couple of more stitches in through the body, or in through the body of the ear rather, to make that fold stay. I feel like that looks pretty good. I got all these pieces hanging because I can't commit to leaving anything. Let's do one more up here, like up closer to the front. Okay, now I will just come on down. So I'm gonna just come back through the ear closer to the body and just, hey, stop that. Do a couple stitches around to really secure the ear on. Like so. And then I'll pass that to the back so that I can see. Alrighty. Now, to position this other ear, I'm actually just gonna come in through here and just take this as straight across as I can. Okay, so we're looking at right here. So I'll take this out, slide this under the stitch right here, and grab the other ear and sew it on the same way and be back. Okay, so second ear is on. I think it looks okay. I think that this horn is bothering me, and maybe we'll change it and maybe we won't. But moving right along. Okay, so now we stuff body, arms, and legs. I feel like stuffing is straightforward enough that I can just do that all off, even though the arms and legs are already done, so it's just really body. But I'll be back. Okay, so body's stuffed pretty firmly. There's our join round, so we're gonna keep that to the back. So we're gonna sew. I guess now's a good time to take a look at the head and say, I think that things are in a place enough that I think that they're cute, and we're gonna tie all these in and get rid of all these ends. So here is the how of that. So thread the tail on your needle. Then usually on the underside, like for the ears, I'll do it back here. The horns, I'll do it back here. You know, underside or somewhere it'll be hidden. Go under a stitch, pass through the loop, and then tighten that down. And then just for a couple of stitches, I'll just weave in and out like this. And then I will just pass this in through the body, bring it out somewhere else, pull this so that it's stretched, so that when I cut it, it goes back into the body. And I'll do that for each of the tails, except not for the one on the neck. We're going to use that to sew still, but I'll do that for each of the other ones and be back. Right, so giving the horns more of a bend. So I'm going to take my tail and I'm going to enter in through the base and go all the way up through the center of the top, like so. And pull it out, and then I'm gonna tighten it down like this, and then I'm gonna hold this down a little so that this is tight, go under a stitch here at the top, make a knot like so, and then I will just go back in through and come out somewhere else. Wow, that's a tight area. And cut my thread like usual as soon as this stops being so tight. Okay, so ends all woven in. Now it doesn't seem that either of these tails are for the bell, but we'll probably use one for the bell anyway. So I'm just gonna make sure my join stitches are to the back, and this is just literally matching stitch for stitch around. So we're just gonna come down, grab this loop, go through this one like that, then the next one, I'm just using the outer edges of the loops that are closer to me, just all the way around. So I'll finish this out and be back. Okay, so I just finished going all the way around. I realized I forgot to add more stuffing. It's holding its head up pretty well, but it is kind of floppy. So I'm gonna back up a little bit. So I'm just gonna separate that a little, find my thread, back it out. Just a couple stitches, not many. Let's see. Probably that many. And add more stuffing to the neck. I'm gonna stuff it pretty well, like as much as I can fit, and then just finish that back, resew it, finish that back up, and tie that end off. This one I'm just gonna leave and use for the bell. So I shoved quite a bit more stuffing in there. You'd be surprised how much you can fit in, and it looks more stable now. And actually I'm realizing I could literally just use this end for the bell, but I'm gonna take that through to the front for the bell. And it does say using a double strand of yarn, so I'll actually just take this through to the front as well and then leave it for now. And probably use that for the bell in a bit. So there we go. Next is using the black yarn to make a running stitch on each arm and leg from round 1 to 6. So that's these little decorative guys. So that's easy because that's where the color changes are. So we have to do that for each one of these, but I probably only really need to demonstrate it on a singular one. So we are going to grab our black and find our join, put that to the back, and then I'm just gonna go in through the center here, come out through the row at our color change like so, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to tie this, and then I'm going to pull it so that the knot is on the inside. So just gonna tie that down, and then I'll actually shove this in here. Wait, why am I using this? Shove this in here. Like that. And then I will trim the other end. Okay. So I'm going to tie that down. I'm going to trim this. And then I'm just gonna put my needle in here, run these two, pull them in here like that, stuff the ends in like so. And I'll just do that on each one of these. Okay, so I probably only need to demonstrate on one of these. I'll just do the same for all 4. So I'm just going to take my black, and I'm going to find the join row and have that be toward the back. And I'm just going to go in through the center of my magic circle the first round, and then come out at the color change for round 6. And then I'm not going to use too much. I'm just going to take that little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to knot this up here close to where I went in. Then I'm going to trim this end I'm going to put my needle in through the hole I came out of and take both ends of this, put them through my needle, and then pull them in to pull the needle inside, and then either trim or just stuff these ends back in. So I'm just going to do that for each one of these, and I'll be back. Okay, so this pattern does have more specific instructions for where to sew things on, so that's kind of nice. So our legs are going to be between round 7 and 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're going to be kind of up here, and it's just going to be resting on them. They're not going to be like sewed underneath or anything. And then the arms are going to be, it says to sew the top of the arm together, so I took a little bit of stuffing out of the top and I'll sew that together. And in the picture, the little detail is facing sort of out. And then once it's sewed on either side, angled between round 16 and 18, and positioned so the ends touch the surface while the body is sitting. So we can count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So like angled basically like this along there, or I guess like this. So it'll be sewed on kind of along there, and so that it'll touch down like so. So I'm just gonna sew this together really simply, and then we'll get the first one sewed on. And it does say leaving 7 stitches on the body. Now I don't know specifically what row they mean those 7 stitches in, if they mean the top row, because obviously we're adding a little more or less stitches as we go with those increasing rounds at the top of the body. So I'm just passing literally underneath the tops of my stitches here, back and forth, just a running stitch. Because this top one only has 12 stitches total, so it says just across the front of the body. So I'm thinking more down here, with like maybe this one being kind of our center. So 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, kind of more the front of the body. So we want it angled this way, so this bottom will be row 16, this top will be more toward row 18. So we'll count up again: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay, so here's our row 16, and we're gonna kind of, oh, we need to be, I think, a little farther back. Kind of like this, I'm thinking. So stop moving around every time I, you know, move. Okay. Rude. All right, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So I'm gonna go in, let's try going in through right here. And sewing this so that it's angled. Let's look. How does that look? Okay, that looks okay. So, okay, so I'm just going to basically try to come up through both layers and then down and into the work, and then up through both layers, down and in, and then up through both, like so. See how that looks. Okay, I think that looks okay. Now we might do some stitches underneath here in a minute, but for now, let's see. So if we count, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like it's about right. So I'm gonna take my other arm now and try to get it started on this side, same way, and see how it goes. Okay, so got them both on. I think they're kind of even, and now we stitch them down so that they stay against the body. So to do that, I'm just going to bring my yarn through to the back. I'm gonna hold it down kind of how I want it to be stitched down. And then I'm just gonna come back here and come in and under a little. And catch a stitch, and then come up through, and then I'm gonna go back down, and like the next stitch, and then up, and back down. See how that looks. Okay, that looks like it's about where we want it. But I'll do a couple more. So, because we want it to kind of curve toward the front a little bit. Okay, it's not bad. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side and be back. Okay, so I positioned it to the back because it's gonna show a little. And I could have done it in a way just like grabbing underneath here and then grabbing underneath here, but that would have been a little bit more difficult, and I personally don't mind it, so I did it this way. But you could do it where you just hold the arm up and basically go in this way, and then just come back down, go in this way, and then back and forth, and then pull it tight. But this way is fine with me, and that's the back, and not really gonna be looking at that anyway. So I'm gonna take these and just tie them and weave them in, and then be back to do the legs.